Coffee Riot was inspired by the concept of paying it forward. The idea was if we bring people from all walks of life together into one place and everybody commits to do one good thing for somebody else, that a lot of good things would come out of that. It started off like jokingly, actually, with a tweet, and within hours a couple $1,000s had been donated by people I didn't know at the time. Before you know it, like a month later, we had an event and I think nearly 1,000 people showed up. And then we had a second one. I think it was a similar type crowd, but what's cool is people found jobs, companies have been created, people found investors, people found friends. I forget how many students, but we actually paid for a bus to go from school to school to school to pick up seniors who are looking for jobs in Boston, help them stay here in Boston. And on the other hand, we had Governor Patrick there. So there's a massive range of people, but I think it's powerful to do that. And when I was a student, we were trying to get the company off the ground. There was an alumnus who I admired and asked him if he'd go out to lunch with me because he had started a company out of school, had been very successful, and I wanted to sort of hear about his journey. And when we were out to lunch, I had told him that I was trying to figure out how to come up with money to get the company going. And the short of it is a few days later, got a card in the mail, and unsolicited, there was a check for $5,000 in it. And it said, don't worry about paying me back someday when you've had great success. Do this for another student. And that was and continues to be an extraordinarily motivating thing to think that somebody was willing, not necessarily the dollars, but the statement of I want to help make something special happen. I think it turns out I believe somebody did that for him. I was always into doing sort of entrepreneurial things. I think I never dreamed to have the opportunity to do something this big, but I've always sought inspiration from a lot of different places. Like, I'm a very big believer in having mentors. I have a rule personally that whenever I am feeling like things are too good or too bad, I go home and talk to my mom, and she reminds me that either they're not that bad or they're not that good. And that continues to be very grounding. If you're going to start a business, I think you have to be comfortable with people saying, this isn't going to happen, or no, you can't. I've come to feel like anytime you hear somebody say, that's how we've always done it, or no, it can't be done that way, that's usually a pretty good indication too that there's an awesome opportunity somewhere there. It was an opportunity and time in the industry when people, especially on the production side, the craftspeople, the designers, were open to a different way of doing business. And I think people started looking at it and saying, why do we make all this inventory? Why do we have it sit in a display case for a couple of years? Why do we spend all our time pushing it on people? What if we did figure out how to make the pieces at really high quality, just in time, so they could get exactly what they want? So in that way, it actually provided an opportunity. As painful of a time as it obviously was. I mean, New York is quite possibly the biggest hub of jewelry supply and craftsmanship in the world, but it's definitely the biggest here in the U.S. So it's a great place to find people that have deep jewelry experience and jewelry knowledge. It's also a great place to interact with folks from whether it's fashion or retail. In that world, which are really important for us in building this business. When we first started, I believed really strongly that by bringing in a really experienced CEO, we'd be able to grow the business much faster and have more success, and I'd have somebody I could learn a lot from, which is how I ended up working with Deb. I felt Deb had a lot of the same values and still does have a lot of the same values that I believe so strongly in. It would be someone I could learn a tremendous amount from. But when we changed the business from working with jewelers to working entirely direct with the customer, we decided, and Deb said, I'm not sure I'm the right person to run this type of business, but Matt can do this if we get a great team around him. And we focused on building out an executive team. So that was the big shift. I think in many ways we're bucking the trend and taking a different approach to saying it really is about this customer having unbelievable choice, not only in getting the perfect piece, but also in how they interact with us. We also get flowers and wedding invitations sent to the office. I mean, that's a very different way of approaching things. And it's, I think taking virtually unlimited choice and pairing that with very personal guidance and tools is just unprecedented, and I think we're making a big mark that way. I mean, I think a CEO has 3 jobs. It's make sure that there's a clear sort of direction and vision for the company and that everyone understands that. Make sure that the company has an adequate amount of capital to build a business, and then make sure that we've got the absolute best people in the right slots, to build the business. So everything I do ties back to one of those 3 things. I won a silver medal in the Junior Olympics, Taekwondo. Yeah. I no longer am that flexible, but I used to be. So, I mean, paying it forward and giving it back is extraordinarily important to me. I think that there's nothing worth doing in the world if you're not making the world a better place in one way or another. I try to find as many opportunities as I can to volunteer, because I think time and hopefully conveying what I've learned in the thousands of mistakes I've made along the way can help other entrepreneurs. But I think that's very important. We have such an amazing opportunity. I mean, I had a board meeting yesterday, and we're having this conversation where there's very few opportunities where you truly can make a massive and long-lasting mark on something big in the world, and really have the opportunity to build what can be an experience and a company and a brand that can last generations. It's extraordinarily important to live and deliver on the commitments that you make, and in our case it's a commitment to getting people an amazing piece of jewelry, the perfect piece of jewelry that captures these unbelievably meaningful moments. I think it is important for entrepreneurs to be comfortable saying, I don't know. Always keep the 1% possibility that you're not right. And if you do that, you sort of leave just enough open mind to hear an alternative perspective. And ultimately that sort of yields the best outcome. Jeff Bezos, because he is extraordinarily long-term focused in terms of how he lives and invests and thinks, from what I know, and because seems truly customer-centric, which I think the combination of those 2 things is what enables real, long-lasting innovation and disruption that he's clearly done in a massive way online with e-tail, but more and more so that's expanding beyond, and I think that's pretty awesome. Ironically, she didn't know what it all was. When I raised the first round of money, I called to tell her about it, and she was like, oh, that's great, this should help you get a real job. So that was cool. But no, in all seriousness, my mom is so ridiculously supportive and the most amazing mom in the world. I'm very lucky to have had such great parents growing up, and just continue having support like that. I won a silver medal in the Junior Olympics, Taekwondo. Yeah. I no longer am that flexible, but I used to be. I like that humor. I can sympathize with this gentleman. Clearly a Lord of the Rings fan. This is Flat Mat. I showed up one day and it was here. Every so often I get photos of people with it.